Welcome to the latest episode of KapVista Klips. Today we're here with Amar from Klaviss. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Good, good. Yeah, it's great to have you. So you're sitting in the sunny Bay Area, and I'm here rugged up in Sydney, nice and cold. How's life in the Bay Area?
The life in the Bay Area is very fast paced, but it's a lot of fun. You're always in
Yeah,
the wider ecosystem of innovation and tech. And that's something. And I lived in Sydney. I grew up in Sydney for 36 years. So Sydney, on the other hand, I miss a lot. I love the outdoor cricket piece of Sydney, and I love the family and the summer barbecues at Christmas. But Bay Area, on
yeah,
the other
yeah,
hand, it's just taught me so much that I couldn't have possibly learned in Sydney.
yeah. And now we were just mentioning it. All you need to do is bring cricket to the US, and you'd be set.
Yep, I'll be sad.
Perfect. Tell me about you before we get into Klaviss, before we get into what you're doing. Tell me about you. Tell me about who you are and how you got to this point.
Yeah, well, I grew up in Sydney, and I've always had this innate desire to create something, to become something and create something that people find useful. Um, I just didn't tap into it maybe at a very later age. When I say later age, I was about 38. Now I'm 46. So my journey started when I was 20. My first job out of college was Commonwealth Bank. I was working in mortgage operations, and I was doing a lot of process work, just daily files in and out. But behind the scenes, I always knew something was missing. So, as such, no surprise, I didn't really get along with my managers. On the contrary, all my managers said to me, "You don't belong in corporate. You need to go out there and do something on your own." And
Yeah.
that kind of stuck with me over the next 20 years. Although I stayed in corporate, but it stuck with me over the next 20 years. Finally, I took the punt after Commonwealth Bank. I worked in Telstra, and then at Telstra, I got this opportunity to apply for a scholarship in New York. I applied for it, I got in, and I ended up in New York, and that was in financial Wall Street, working in investment and wealth. Now, New York, as you know, it's a different kettle of fish. You're exposed to
Yeah.
so much variety around of people, of different self-made people, of old money, of money trying to become new money. So as you start getting used to and exposed to that environment, you start figuring yourself out a bit more. And that's when my drive really kicked into overdrive. I met the love of my life, got married, moved back to Sydney, got into a prestigious then MBA scholarship, which was University of New South Wales. Through that scholarship, it took me to University of Sydney. University of Sydney got me exposed to the next biggest opportunity. So first, I was the youngest director of finance and operations for all of university. My boss at the time, his name is Mark Eason. He believed in me. He brought me in, and I did a massive, let's call it the Doge equivalent restructure of university, and I
Yeah.
won awards for it from the vice chancellor at the time. In doing so, I got on the radar of some of the wealthy alumni who are billionaires who donated to the university, and they got me into some big projects that they were setting up, which were part of the university, but they were global in nature. So for profit center in leadership. That took me around the world. I got headhunted from within the university to become chief operating officer for that facility. Took me around the world, and I ended up, from Australia, got exposed to U.S. Silicon Valley, Houston, New York, and then most of Canada, most of Asian markets, some of the European markets, and I was setting up partnerships and making deals across all these parts of the world to bring business back into Australia.
Mhm.
And as I was doing that, the board members of this entity, which I would say were very powerful people. So you're talking about at the time we had the chairman of Macquarie Group, we had the CEO of Telstra, David Thodey. Chairman was Catherine Livingston. We had the CEO of Macquarie, sorry, the chairman of Dow Chemicals in the United States. Our chairman of Worley, John Grill, who was also the biggest owner. So as we got, and we had communications minister at the time, Malcolm Turnbull. So as I got exposed to all these people, they started, kind of getting me to believe more in myself, and that's where I then took the punt and got into my own business. First business failed, miserably failed, but I learned a lot. Second business succeeded really well, sold in 2020. That was education technologies. Third business I still have, and it's running on the side in parallel, which is a coffee business, online coffee. And fourth is Klaviss. And Klaviss is something I started in 2021 purely out of a pain point I personally felt because my wife and I were buying a home. And I saw this was in United States, in California, the amount of information and the paperwork that was fragmented and flying around from different emails. Escrow had, a sign on for me, and I had to only use their system and sign on. The brokerage was sending me emails plus text messages. It was all very much, very confusing for me as a consumer, a lot of anxiety provoking. And then also we are depositing large amount of money into escrow and then not knowing where the next step is. So that's what led the idea to Klaviss. However, I'm not a realtor by background. So I actually drew out a wireframe, sort of a process map one day. And I have four really good friends, all California based. Three of them are licensed real estate agents and brokers. And the fifth one is a techie. So I presented my idea to those people and I said, this is what I want to build. They've been in the industry, each of them for about 15 years. They said, this is great. It's the future. We want in. They became my co-founders and invested into the business. And that was how Klaviss was formed.
Yeah. So walk through what Klaviss is, because you've touched on the pain points, but what does it do?
So yeah, it's an industry's first platform that we designed purely for the back office of operations of a brokerage. When we did a lot of market study in the early days, we did competitor analysis. One thing stood out for certain, that there's thousands of tools out there that are consumer facing, so CRMs or nurturing a deal, nurturing a client. There's thousands of them, but brokerages in itself are quite traditional. As you know, people are buying their homes for the first time. They still want that human touch point, and we were very
Yeah.
mindful of that we don't want to get rid of that human touch point, but we want to help them. How can they 10x their productivity? How can they get the anxiety of the consumers, so the consumer, the buyer and seller, knows exactly where their files are at? So we built Klaviss
Mm-hmm.
as this industry's first end-to-end transaction management system. Starts at the pre-listing. That's where a seller decides we're going to sell a home. So they engage a real estate agent on the seller side, and they start collecting all the documents. So our system starts there. Then it moves to the offer management. Now they've received offers. The seller's agent can invite buyer agent in and field multiple offers, make the final decision, sign a contract, moves into transaction. The transaction is where we actually have three patents, patent pending, I should say, that are in it now. Um, the A completed, executed contract gets uploaded to that specific module, and it reads all the information relating to the transaction. So the buyer and seller information, escrow information if it's there, the agent information, all the key dates, all the contingencies, the price, and it sets up the tasks automatically. We've trained our system to set up the task automatically and work backwards. Escrow is 30 days, so 30 days minus 15, your contingency, appraisal contingency is due, or inspection contingency is due. So it sets it all up. Then next stage, it invites all the parties in. So we are also the first system where seller, buyer, all the agents on both sides, the escrow, the title, the lender, compliance officer, and audit, they get invited into our system. There's an option to add an attorney in if it's a complicated deal. So they all get invited in, but the system is still designed to have a delineation of who talks to each other. So agents are always the primary brokers, right? So only they're allowed to talk to each other and they're only allowed to negotiate, but everything happens through our system. At no point the client, the buyer and seller have to jump out to a different system to perform a task and come back in. And they
Yeah.
sign. All the signing ceremonies are also done within our system. So we've integrated with Dropbox, which is Dropbox HelloSign, similar to
Yeah.
DocuSign. And the reason for that is the signing ceremony is completed within our system. The documents are stored within our system. But the entire system, then at the end of it, all parties have full visibility at any given time. As the tasks come due, they get an email and they get a text message with a link. This is the next task due. It's due in 2 days. Please click sign here. As each task is being completed, as documents are being uploaded, it automatically matches on the other side to the compliance. So that currently in itself is a partial manual process. So we have taken that and 10x help the brokerage 10x their compliance capabilities. So our system design is designed to read every document by heading, title, signatories, date, timestamp, what document it is, and it shows up in compliance. If something's wrong, it also shows up, it flags an error. So the compliance officer can check and then send it back out for signature. So in a nutshell, that's what our system is. Our entire system is closed loop because you can only get invited in. And once you're invited in, there's a 2FA security authentication on top. That became a big piece because the brokerage industry and the escrow is ripe with attempted financial fraud. And because of financial fraud, I'll give you an example. One of the clients we're working with is a big client. It's Berkshire Hathaway's affiliate, Intero Group. Berkshire Hathaway gets attempted 12,500 times per minute of scams. So to be able to stop them
Mm.
at their track is pretty big for them. And that's
Yeah.
in a nutshell our system.
Yeah. So you're not replacing the agent, you're making their process a lot simpler. You're reducing the man hours and the administration time needed so you can make a brokerage office more efficient. But it's also removing the stress and anxiety and providing peace of mind to the client, so the client has a better experience as well. And then the compliance bit of it, because there have been cases where after the sale is completed, there's missing things, and then it reduces the risk for litigation. If something was to happen, because everything is one place. There's checklists, and it's
It's
transparent,
transparent.
but also very secure.
And we've designed the system to it's become a joke with with us. It was for me. I was able to foster and get buy-in for my vision from our champions, which is some of the big brokerages in the United States, and their CEOs and CTOs became my champion because I'm glad to say they bought into my shared vision. Because
Yeah.
through Klaviss being the first of its kind, it was interesting when we used to do demos. The first reaction before the demo would start was, oh, yet another transaction management platform. At the end of the demo, oh wow, this is great. Now we can actually see you're helping us modernize the back office. It's not just another tool to sit on top of another tool. So we've
Yeah.
designed it to replace for them 3 4 different legacy tools that they currently use.
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned that you've got Berkshire Hathaway's
Intero.
agent, Intero Group. How did you get that relationship? Because that's an interesting story.
I'm an old school door to door type of guy. So I used to, in the early days, I would go to open homes on the weekends and just talk to agents. I would go there thinking they're pretending to buy a home, but end up talking to agents about how they're doing this, how they're doing that. And at one of the meetings, I met one of the Intero agents. And he kind of saw through me. He said, "You're not here to buy this home, are you?" Said, "Look, here's what I'm designing and building." He's like, "That's fantastic. Let me introduce you to our CEO." And that CEO, his name is Scott Chase. He's become our biggest champion and ambassador. And by the way, he is willing to talk to any investor on our behalf anywhere around the world, because he told me the opportunity we have is big, is tremendously big, not just with the United
Yeah.
States, but around the world.
Yeah. Because this is not just a US problem. This is a
Yeah.
global problem.
And
Um,
and through that, once I've built, that was 2 years ago, I've built trusted with them. I brought them along on the design journey for the remaining phase over the last 2 years. He introduced me to the wider Berkshire Hathaway leadership team. And then through that, as the word of mouth got around, I deliberately kept it stealth and quiet up until this point. But that's opened doors to the other brokerages.
yeah. Yeah. Okay, great. So you are the platform is built. It works. It's got the tick of approval from industry leaders. You know, agents from small brokerage firms to large brokerage firms. You know, have all approved it, and now you're raising
Yeah.
money. Tell us about the raise. How much you're raising? What's the use of funds for? And what's the momentum like?
Okay. We're raising $5 million. The use of funds will be so there's currently about 11 people on the team, 5 co-founders, and about 5 engineers, one tech strategist. All of them, we've bootstrapped it, especially me personally. So I've put a lot of money in because I believe in the product. My co-founders have put a lot of money in. So we want to take it to the next stage. So next stage is convert many of these engineers into permanent payroll within Klaviss, and they all want to hire some more sales staff and hire customer support staff. These three are critical. These three functions are critical for us to now we have signed in parallel. We have signed agreements already in place. So to be able to now service these agreements and take them to the next level and then scale it up over across United States, across the world, is where the $5 million will be spent. And 5 million, you may be thinking it's not a big ask to go global, but because our ambition is also that we'll monetize this so fast that in the first year and a half we'll be able to convert our burn rate into cash flow positive, and that will then slow down the ask from there onwards.
Yeah. So from the first 18 months, you'll become cash flow positive, and then you know it sounds like an exciting opportunity because the real estate or property market is huge globally. It is especially if you're looking at your first point of call would be outside of the US would be Canada, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, which are four very similar markets. And your product can fit straight in because every brokerage agent in those markets are all facing the same thing. They want to be more efficient and they have to move with the change in society. Customers want to feel peace of mind. Customers want to feel secure, and they have to. There's a push to change within the time. So those four markets off the bat, you could go into straight away.
Yeah, absolutely. And our research tells us those four markets. Then we've actually been approached by a big property developer from India. India, as you know, it's not just India. There's many countries have this problem of corruption in real estate.
Yeah.
However, in some countries where they're trying to really improve their governance and create a better business environment, India is one of them. So this property developer wants to create more transparency in their deals so they can also go global. And our system is designed to help them achieve that. So we've been approached by that company. Then there's another one, which I believe it's a Dubai company, but they came in through UAE in general. So the opportunity is in those countries too.
Yes, massive markets as well. Okay, I'm not going to take up too much more of your time, but I think this is a really exciting opportunity given that the space you're playing in, they have deep pockets. You've already had the tick of approval and thumbs up from industry experts. This is going to be something that average brokerage will need, and it's not just another technology play that stacks on stacks on. This is a all-in-one solution that plugs into their system. That's not replacing the agent, but complementing the agent.
That's right. But in the same time, helping them replace the legacy systems, which they will save. They will save a lot of money. I've already got validation, and granted, that's from one brand of brokerage. That those legacy systems that they pay currently a license fee, for example, it'll help them save those, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. In addition, there is pressure on a low margin industry like real estate to consolidate headcount where it's not needed. The key positions are always going to be agents and compliance officers.
Yeah.
Our system is designed to complement those two key positions. The rest of it can actually be consolidated, the headcount for them. So that's another few $100,000 a year that they'll be saving. in addition, our system, it's exciting. Just last week, we actually signed an agreement, a licensing agreement with Orange Coast Escrow and Title Company here in California. That's actually taken us into a fintech element. So we were real estate tech. Now we also have the fintech element combined. That is a new opportunity. We always had it on the back of our mind, but we never considered it. So just taking that fintech element into it, it actually adds a number of different revenue streams, which we are still now quantifying.
Yeah, yeah. So you have, it's not just the one revenue stream. There's multiple revenue streams, and then from there, a lot more can open up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is exciting. Any investors who are watching this who want to find out more, please reach out to my team. We can connect you directly through to Amar to have this conversation, because I think this is something that's really, really important. And software platforms that change legacy industries, and once you're in, you're going to be sticky. Agents, brokerage agents and brokerage offices will be dependent on you, which is a great business model and what investors want to see. So I'm excited about this. I'm going to share this with my networks, but hopefully we can get your raise closed really quickly.
Hopefully, and I really appreciate this opportunity, Daniel. Thank you.
Not a problem. Thank you very much, and it's great having you on.
Thanks again. Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks. Bye.